Jay Kidd and I, we've had a vision in the culture that we want to create since we've been here. And the players that we're bringing in, we believe exemplify that. Defense wins championships, and we're bringing in one of the best two-way players in the league.
What's been your experience and your vibe out on the road so far as you get ready to play your first game?
Yeah, the vibes are high. Energy is great. I like our team. I like the way the guys are playing.
As you all know by now, Nico Harrison and the Dallas Mavericks made potentially the dumbest move in NBA history at the trade deadline. I mean, Mark Cuban even tried to call Nico Harrison at the attempt to convince him not to trade Luka Dončić to the Los Angeles Lakers for Anthony Davis and Max Christie. All the talk around this trade was the fact that Dallas traded their 25-year-old superstar for absolutely no reason, and rightfully so. But what was completely swept under the rug in this deal is that Dallas got back a top 10 player in the sport. Yes, Anthony Davis is 31 years old, and yes, his prime won't last much longer, but when he's healthy, he's one of the best players in all of basketball. But that's the problem. We don't really know if he could stay healthy. So before we get to the content, make sure you drop a like, subscribe, and turn on our notifications to get the latest NBA news to your device. Now that we get all that out of the way, cue the intro. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? Mark Cuban recently had a conversation with Bill Gates where he was trying to explain to a tech guy what the Dallas Mavericks, which he was a former majority owner of, just did.
If after you left Microsoft, you found out that Steve Ballmer traded Windows 11, like the new hot operating system, for Windows 10, the Hall of Fame, but older. What would you do?
As a Los Angeles Laker fan, it's been a running joke for years that Anthony Davis is made of paper, or he has like a basketball tragedy that occurs to him every time he steps on the floor. And Dallas fans experienced that firsthand. Just 2.5 quarters into his Mavericks debut, Anthony Davis would go down with a non-contact groin injury, giving Mavs fans as short of a look at their new star as possible. However, Anthony Davis originally told ESPN reporter Tim McMahon post-game that he just felt tightness in his groin/quad area and it's not that serious. But a report came out the very next day that he was out for an indefinite amount of time, with Shams Charania saying that he could even be out for upwards of a month. This type of stuff happens far too often with AD. Despite never missing a full season, the former Pelican and Laker has missed over 15 games in almost every single season he's been in the NBA, including missing over half of the season in 2022 due to a string of injuries. A full season for AD just feels impossible.
Okay, well, what's your reaction? I mean, I don't know what to say. I really don't know what to say about this one.
This season, though, Anthony Davis only missed 5 out of the 47 games that he was a Laker. So Nico Harrison and the Mavericks were expecting a healthy superstar in return for the guy that they shouldn't have traded in the first place. And they definitely did get a superstar, just not a healthy superstar. Which is kind of funny because the whole reason why they traded Luka Dončić in the first place was because of his conditioning and the fact that he had a calf strain due to his conditioning. Now, in his debut, Anthony Davis was incredible. I mean, AD finished with an absolutely absurd stat line, putting up 26 points, 16 boards, and 7 assists, and 3 blocks in 31 minutes. And this was against one of the best teams in the Western Conference, the Houston Rockets, who have one of the best defenses in all of basketball. He somehow hit his over on his points total before the injury. Ever since I've gotten this sponsorship, I've been trying to figure out a way to game the system so I can earn my subscribers money, and I finally did it this past week. And if you don't believe me, I'm going to show you all the messages I've been receiving over the past few days as a result of all the people making money with my picks. I have a model that has exponentially increased our hit rate, and if you don't believe me, just look at my DMs. I mean, people have been blowing up my DMs with all the money they've been making. We made thousands of dollars on Prize Picks this past week, but use my promo code microphone when you sign up for Prize Picks to get $50 when you make a play of $5 or more. He looked as dominant as ever in the Mavs jersey, literally minutes into his first game in Dallas. I mean, you have to watch this game to understand how electric it was. Anthony Davis literally looked at the crowd and said, "I'm here," almost as if he heard the trade chatter and he wanted to clap back. Davis was matched up against Amen Thompson, a breakout superstar and a candidate for first team all defense when the season ends. And keep in mind, Thompson isn't exactly small. Amen Thompson is an athletic 6'7" wing with a 6'9" wingspan. This is a difficult matchup. So what does Anthony Davis do? He posts him up and is able to get a heavily contested shot to go in over Thompson. He then posted up Tari Eason, another great defender. The literal next play for the exact same result. In the first quarter alone, he had 14, 8, and 3. It's clear that Davis is one of the best players in the world when healthy, but the question of whether or not he will be is the perfect way to describe the Anthony Davis experience. And Mavericks fans felt the entire experience in just one game. The fact that Davis is expected to miss 3 to 4 weeks is absolutely crushing for the Mavericks. Dallas is currently 8th in the West, and if they want to win now, as Nico Harrison said, they need Anthony Davis.
A guy that is a top 5 defensive player in Anthony Davis. A guy that is now about to go to his natural position of playing the power forward, which, by the way, in my opinion, is one of the most skilled power forwards to ever touch the damn basketball.
If Dallas wants any chance at competing in the Western Conference, Anthony Davis needs to be healthy, and he needs to be at the top of his game. They don't have Luka Dončić anymore, and Kyrie Irving isn't enough to beat the teams at the top of the West, like the Oklahoma City Thunder, the Houston Rockets, the Denver Nuggets. And with this injury becoming more severe than we initially thought, the Mavericks are in trouble. In his time as a Laker this season, AD averaged 25.7 points, 11.9 rebounds, and 2.1 blocks per game. And that was on a team that LeBron James was leading. Now Anthony Davis gets a chance to be the #1 guy on his squad for the first time since he was a New Orleans Pelican. And with Kyrie Irving making plays with him and being able to take away some of the offensive stress with his creativity, Dallas could make a hell of a run. But that's only if Kyrie can keep the Mavericks floating while Anthony Davis recovers. If Dallas falls out of a playoff spot, which they have a real shot of doing now, I can't even imagine the backlash that Nico Harrison would get. He already needs a full security team to even leave his house, and Dallas Maverick fans are already protesting pre-game. I think the entire city of Dallas would riot if the Dallas Mavericks missed the playoffs entirely. Going from 3 games away from your second ever NBA championship to being out of the playoffs completely is the worst case scenario for Dallas, but it is entirely possible. Now I understand that Luka Dončić has been hurt for a while, but he's returning just 2 days after Anthony Davis's debut. And no disrespect to Anthony Davis, because as a Los Angeles Laker fan, I absolutely love Anthony Davis and what he's done for our city. I mean, he brought a championship to the Los Angeles Lakers. That totally counts! I don't care if it was in the bubble, it totally counts. If anything, it was the hardest championship ever won. There was a COVID pandemic. I mean, I'm tired of you guys discrediting this championship. It's the hardest championship ever won, and it totally counts. Stop spamming that it was a Mickey Mouse ring in my comment section. But having Luka Dončić on your team would pretty much guarantee that you don't fall out of the play-in at the very minimum. You know what the offense looks like for the Dallas Mavericks when Luka Dončić and Kyrie Irving were running the offense, and you know that it's good enough to make it to the NBA Finals. We don't know how an Anthony Davis-led offense will look in the playoffs, if they even make it, especially if he's not 100%. The duo of Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving did look good in the minimal minutes that they played together, but sometimes when a new offense sparks, it doesn't quite translate in a 7-game series. The 2011 Miami Heat are a perfect example. A trio of LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh in their primes was the most unfair team of all time on paper, according to some. And during the regular season, it was. They finished with 58 wins and seemed like a lock to win it all. But once they reached the NBA Finals, their spark ran out. LeBron had his worst playoff series of all time, and they would lose in 6 to, ironically, Dirk Nowitzki and the Dallas Mavericks. No matter how good Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving look in the regular season, they need to translate that spark to the postseason, which is something that Luka Dončić never had a problem with on his own.
Luka's the best white boy I've seen since Larry Bird. This brother is something special.
It's safe to say that Luka Dončić is one of the greatest playoff performers of all time. Already in his short career, Luka has played in 50 playoff games, including a trip to the finals. In those 50 playoff games, Luka is averaging 30.9 points, 9.4 rebounds, and 8 assists in 39 minutes per game. Those are Hall of Fame numbers. He's proven time and time again that he can lead his team to playoff wins on his own, but neither AD or Kyrie Irving have done so yet. Both men have championships, and both men played huge roles in said championships, but both men won those championships next to LeBron James. When Anthony Davis was on his own in New Orleans, he had minimal playoff success, only winning 1 of the 3 playoff series he's played as a Pelican. Kyrie, on the other hand, technically made it to the Eastern Conference Finals as the star of his team in Boston, but he was injured for the entirety of the playoffs. Terry Rozier and rookie Jason Tatum were the ones that led Boston that far, and once Kyrie Irving got his chance the following season, he lost in 5 in the second round to Giannis Antetokounmpo and the Milwaukee Bucks. Neither star has been able to find any postseason success without one of the greatest players of all time on their team, so we truly have no idea how successful they can be together. But again, it all comes down to the health of Anthony Davis. There's no stopping Anthony Davis when he's playing the 4, and Dallas knows that, even though Rob Pelinka refused to believe that. It's funny that he refused to let AD play the 4, but as soon as the Lakers got Luka, Rob Pelinka was very aggressive in trying to pursue a center, and the trade ended up falling through. A little bit more on that later. Regardless, we won't even be able to find out how good Kyrie Irving and Anthony Davis can be together in the postseason if they don't make it. And on top of that, they'd have to sit at home and watch Luka Dončić dominate with his new team, who are a lock to make the playoffs at this point. If this happens, Nico Harrison would receive more than just the threats that he's currently getting, especially after this picture of him and Rob Pelinka at a coffee shop leaked. And Anthony Davis's legacy would even take a hit. Despite his Hall of Fame career, he'll always be tied to being the centerpiece in the Luka Dončić trade. And if things fall apart for the Dallas Mavericks, Davis would be the first player to get laughed at. So he better find a way to stay on the court after this month-long injury. Because if the terrible decision that Nico Harrison made is what Anthony Davis's legacy becomes, then that would be such a shame. Now, for those of you guys that don't know, the Los Angeles Lakers aren't in much better shape either. As a matter of fact, you can make an argument that they're absolutely screwed too, because they just made a trade for Mark Williams. That trade got voided and it's past the trade deadline and they have no center. So we have a separate video on that. I'll leave it in the end screen. I'll break it down for you guys there. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.